started in about 2 minutes for our sunrise and shine stretch. Until then, I just kind of want to talk a little bit about what we'll be doing today. So seeing as, for me especially, this is, the first time I'll be moving today. Just barely woke up like 20 minutes ago. So I'm going to take it really easy at the beginning. We're going to work on warming our bodies up and getting them ready to stretch. And then after that, we'll start going through some stretches and working on being active in our stretches and not just passive. So there's a difference between just sitting in a stretch and hoping that you'll gain flexibility by doing so, and actually using your muscles and using, your stamina and your core and all those good things to help you gain flexibility. So we'll be going into that a little bit, kind of tapping into what is active, what is passive, and how you can make the change and actually gain flexibility and do it in a safe way so that you don't injure yourself, because sometimes what happens is we try to overexert our energy and we end up injuring ourselves, and I definitely can attest to that. I've done it myself when I was younger, and I just, at the time when I could drop into the splits and it'd be no big deal. And that's no longer the case, so I just have to take a little more care of my body, and I'll take care of you guys as well. So yeah, we'll get started in another minute or so. I hope we're all having a great morning so far. Hope we all are caffeinated up and ready to go for the day. Yeah, super excited for this class. And then tomorrow, I think what I'm going to do at 10 o'clock is I'm going to do a strengthening or a conditioning class. So if you want to tune into that as well, that'll be at 10 tomorrow, just strengthening and conditioning. Yeah, so it is 8 o'clock. We'll just let people trickle in as they will, and we'll get started. So I'm going to come over here to my mat, and I'm going to start with my feet about hip width apart, and they're in a parallel position, so we're not turned out. We're parallel, and I'm going to start by just dropping my chin towards my chest. And since I just woke up, I'm going to start to feel a little pull on the back of my spine here. And we're going to start getting a stretch as we slowly roll down here. And I'm going to stop about halfway, right here. And just let that stretch really sink in here, because I'm just warming my body up, just getting it ready for movement. And from here, I'm just going to start taking a little rock. So I'm going to take my head over to one direction. Feel a little pull along the side of my body, and then drop my head towards the center and get that other side going. Feeling a little stretch down the side of your body. Again, we're trying to be really active and engaged in our stretching today. So not just sitting into this stretch and hoping something will happen. My core is engaged. I'm using all of my muscles to make sure I'm safe, and also to make sure that I'm actually getting a stretch done. And we'll do this a few more times in each direction, just warming up our spine and our neck a little bit. And one more time in each direction. And slow down through center. We're going to keep rolling down through our spine, all the way down to the mat. Once you get down there, I want us to focus on keeping the weight of ourselves in the balls of the feet and the toes. So we're not sitting back in our hips, and I'll show you the difference from the side. Sitting back in the hips is going to look like this, and that's not doing much for you. It's a little dangerous. I want you to stay engaged and really push your weight forward in this position. That'll help actively lengthen your hamstrings. And let's take a little bend in our knees. And stretch. Again, bend and stretch. 2 more times, bend and stretch. Last one, bend and stretch. Now I'm going to bend my right knee, keep my left hand on the ground, and take a little twist. And bring it back down through center. Same thing to the opposite direction. Bend my left knee, plant my right hand, and take a twist. And bring it back down. Let's let's take a bend in our knees and slowly roll up to standing, but I want you to tuck your head as we roll all the way up to standing. And give a little shimmy at the top. We're gonna do that one more time. So we're gonna drop our chin to our chest, slowly start to roll down. We get about halfway, and then take a little rock side to side, stretching out the side of the body. And let's do one more time each side. And slow down through center and keep rolling all the way down, all the way down. Once you get to the bottom, try to extend those legs as straight as you can. You might be a little tight from just waking up in your hamstrings, and that's okay. Let's take 4 bends in our knees and bend and stretch. Again, bend and stretch. 2 more times, bend and stretch. Last time, bend and stretch. And let's again bend that right knee. Keep that left hand planted and take a twist. And bring it back down. Switch directions, bend the left, take up the left. And bring it back down. From here, we're going to walk ourselves out to a plank. So I'm going to step my feet back. My hands are right under my shoulders, and I'm making sure that I'm not sinking down. I'm actively pressing out and engaged in this position. From here, we're just going to take a little rock forwards and backwards, gentle shift between the hands and the feet. And now I'm going to press my hips back into a downward facing dog. So we're trying to really lengthen through our calves, through our hamstrings in the back by pushing with our hands. Our hips are pushing towards the back of the room. And maybe take a little march with those feet, treading right and then left. And from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push my hips up and I'm going to slowly roll through my spine. Each vertebra is resetting into that plank position. And then we're going to press back into a downward facing dog once more. And again, we're going to tuck our pelvis and slowly roll through each vertebra, returning to that plank. And again, press back. We're just warming up the spine. And press, tucking the pelvis, and back. Let's do this one more time. And tuck the pelvis, and roll through the spine, and press it back. Go ahead and bend your knees and walk your hands all the way back to your feet. Once your heels are down, slowly roll all the way up to standing. And give a little shake out at the top. So again, we're still warming the body up a little bit, getting it ready for some bigger stretches that we're going to be doing later. If you just popped on, welcome. I'm so glad that you are here. We're going to be focusing on working our body and staying active versus passive in a stretch and what that means. So from here, I want us to take a wide stance. I'm still in a parallel position. I'm not turned out. I'm in a parallel position, toes are pointing forward. And we're going to, instead of just doing the side-to-side stretches that we were doing, we're going to do a full circle with our head leading it in each direction. So I'm going to drop my chin to my chest, gentle bend in my legs. We're going to go to the right first. So I'm going to open up my side body. I'm going to keep circling towards the back, drop towards the left, and drop to center. And keep going in this direction for now. Just warming up that spine, getting into those hips a little bit also. Nice and gentle, we're just waking our bodies up. I tend to be really stiff in my spine when I wake up, and I definitely am this morning. It is true. One more time this way. And then we're going to reverse, moving to the left this time. So we open up all the way around and dropping. We'll do 4 circles. This is 2. This is 3. And this is 4. And go ahead and slow down. We're going to roll it up. And I'm going to take my arms up to a T, and I'm going to reach up and over, big my side stretch to the right. And here, what we're talking about with this passive inactiveness, I want us to keep our core engaged, so we're not just sitting here and hoping something's going to happen. We're keeping our core engaged. Our obliques are being stretched, so we have to make sure that we protect those obliques by not overdoing it. And bring it back up. We're going to go the other direction, towards that left now. Core is engaged. We're protecting that right oblique now. And we bring it back up. From here, I'm going to interlock my fingers, and I'm going to place them on the base of my skull here. And I'm going to gently pull my head down towards my belly button. And I'm applying a little bit of pressure with my hands as I slowly roll all the way down. So you might feel a difference, you might not, but this just feels really good. And it allows me to release a little bit more through my spine. So we're rolling all the way down. And bend through those knees. Roll all the way back up. We'll do this once more. Apply a tiny bit of pressure to the base of the skull, chin to chest, and slowly roll all the way down. And bend through those knees at the bottom, and slowly roll all the way up. Beautiful. Now we're going to interlock those hands behind our back here. We're going to press out with our knuckles and slowly fold forward. All of our weight should stay in our toes, staying active in our stretch. And I'm going to let those arms just kind of do as they will. This range of motion is totally up to your body. If you have a little more tightness in your shoulders, you might be down here. That's okay, wherever you feel a stretch. And release those hands down to your mat. From here, we are going to turn out our toes now, and we're going to take 4 deep bends in our knees here. So we take a deep bend, opening up those hips now, and stretch. Again, bend, and stretch. 2 more times, bend, and stretch. Last one, bend, and stretch. If you are feeling ready and able, then you can take your hands off the mat, and we're going to place our elbows on our knees, sinking down into a deep hip opening stretch here. If not, then just keep doing this bending and stretching motion, warming up those hips for later use. Maybe take a little rock side to side. And if you're here, you can drop one shoulder towards the ground. Maybe take a little twist in the spine. And let's switch, drop that opposite shoulder, take a twist. One more time each direction, drop that shoulder towards the ground. And last one, drop that shoulder and twist. And go ahead and drop those hands back to the mat. We're going to turn those feet parallel and take a deep bend into those knees and stretch. Again, bend and stretch. 2 more times, bend and stretch. Last one, bend and stretch. From here, we're going to drop ourselves down. Just let gravity do the work here. Keep that weight in the front of your foot and not sinking back so that we get an active hamstring stretch. And I'm going to walk my hands behind my feet, walking as far back as you can, and try to settle into the stretch for a few moments. And release back through to the front. We're going to do this one more time each way. So let's take 4 bends. We bend and stretch. Again, bend and stretch. 2 more times, bend and stretch. Last one, we bend and stretch. And we take those hands, walk them behind the feet, trying to sink a little bit lower. Don't lock your knees here. Keep the knees soft. We're still trying to stay active, but we're not trying to hurt ourselves doing so. And release back through to the front. Let's take a deep bend in those knees, and we're going to slowly roll up to standing. So drop the pelvis, sequentially roll up all the way through the spine, and give a little shake out at the top. All right, so I think I'm feeling a little warmer and ready to do some bigger stretches. I hope you are as well. If not, you can pause and maybe come back to this when I'm done recording and maybe continue on, or whatever you need to do, but we're going to still be warming up a tiny bit while we move. So I'm going to move to the end of my mat, and I'm going to slowly roll all the way down, tucking my chin to my chest. My feet are about hip width apart. And from here, I'm going to walk my hands out to a downward dog position. I'm pressing my heels down into the ground, pushing back with my hands. And I'm going to tread through my feet. And from here, I'm going to drop my pelvis, slowly roll through the spine. And here, I'm going to keep going. So my pelvis is going to keep dropping. I'm keeping my hips and my back protected by not just sinking down into the stretch. I'm pushing through my shoulder blades. I'm not dropping my head. I'm keeping everything in line. My quads are engaged, protecting my lower back. This is a nice upward dog position, stretching out the back. And now lift the pelvis back to your downward dog. Again, we're going to tuck the pelvis, rolling out to your plank. And we're going to keep rolling all the way down to your upward facing dog, staying active in this stretch, not passive, protecting our back. And again, lift that pelvis, downward dog. We'll do this twice more. Tuck the pelvis, roll out to a plank, and keep going into your upward dog. And really find moments in this routine where you can breathe. So where it feels natural to you to inhale, where it feels natural to exhale, because breath really does support stretching so much. And lift the pelvis. Once more, drop the pelvis, roll through the spine, and keep going to your upward facing dog. And go ahead and drop your knees down now. I'm going to press back to a child's pose and just kind of allow my spine to reset a little bit. So push back, allow that belly to sink through your knees here towards your mat, and just take a few deep breaths in this position. And I'm going to take my right arm and thread it underneath my left. And bring that arm back through center. Let's switch sides. My left is going to thread under my right. And bring that arm back through center. Let's go ahead and bring ourselves back out to a plank. Go ahead and tuck those toes and lift those thighs off the mat and press back downward facing dog. Let's pick that tread back up through the feet. And from here, I'm going to lift my right leg up and hover it from the floor, making sure that my hips are parallel, they're not opening up. My hips are parallel here. And now feel free to open up that hip and send that leg towards the ceiling as high as it will go. And let's bend into that right knee, letting it drop open. And extend through that leg. And let's go ahead and bend that right knee and bring it through your hands, replacing that foot into the mat, going into a runner's lunge position. From here, we want to always make sure that that knee is lined up over your ankle so that we're not overshooting like so and endangering our kneecap. So always make sure that you're in line here. And from here, let's extend that right leg straight. And go ahead and bend into that right knee. From here, I'm going to take my right arm off the mat and take a twist. You should really feel a nice stretch in that left hip flexor here. And drop that arm back down to the ground. One more time, extend through that right leg. And rebend into that knee. From here, if you are feeling ready and able, we're just going to take those arms off the ground. So maybe take them to your thigh, maybe take them up overhead, wherever you feel comfortable. Find a balance here. Make sure you're still breathing. That core is engaged. We're activating our quad. And go ahead and drop those arms back down. From here, I'm going to drop my left knee. If you need a little additional support on that knee, you can maybe fold your yoga mat under to create extra cushion for that knee, or if you have a little pillow or something you can put under there to protect the knee from the ground. I encourage you to do so if it's bothering you. We're going to press those hips towards your mat, and you should feel a nice opening stretch in that opposite hip flexor, the one that's on the ground. And from here, go ahead and extend that right leg, press your hips back, and fold forward. And go ahead and bend into that right knee. Again, drop those hips towards your mat. And one more time, extend through that right leg, press those hips back. And bend into that knee, returning back into this position. I'm going to take my right hand to the inside of my foot and take a little step out with my foot. You can stay right here if the stretch feels good, or you can drop down to your forearms, going into your lizard pose stretch. And let's bring it back up onto our hands. I'm going to reach back. If you'd like a deeper stretch, you can do this with me, with my right arm, and I'm going to try and grab for that left foot. Maybe you just reach for it, maybe you actually get hold of it, and get a nice quad stretch here. And release that foot. From here, what we're going to do is I'm going to do this facing you. We're going to tuck our left knee underneath our right leg, like so, so that right foot is planted in the ground. Both of our hip bones should be connected to the mat still. And I'm going to rotate towards that left side of my body. And go ahead and switch. We're going to rotate towards the right side now, sitting up nice and tall. And bring it back through center. I'm going to take my right ankle and my left ankle and line them up with the opposite knee. So we end up in this parallel position like so. And what we're trying to do is make sure that that right foot is not sinking in. It is instead moving towards the outside of that knee. We're in a fire logs position. You might feel a little stretch in the hips and the glutes back here. That is good. We're going to slowly fold forward as far as your body will allow. Some of us are extra tight in this position, some of us are not. And go ahead and lock those hands back in. We're going to gently release those legs from that fire logs position and give them a little shake, just making sure that we don't hold any extra tension when we move on to our next stretches. So now I'm going to take my right leg and I'm going to send it in front. My left leg is going to extend back, going to my pigeon pose position. So we're trying to press that left hip down into your mat. And again, this is another good stretch where we can work on being active versus passive. So being passive just means that you kind of throw this leg here and then you sink down and that's it. Being active means that we're going to try and instead open this leg up to a different degree of stretch, the one that's most comfortable for you. And we're trying to really open both hips up. So it's not just this left one that's getting stretched. You should also feel it in the right hip. And once you find that angle that feels comfortable to you, we're going to sink down to our forearms. We're trying to actively press that left hip flexor towards the ground. And then go ahead and bring it back up to a seated position. I'm going to bend my back leg now to sort of match the angle that my right is at. So I'm going into this sort of 90 degree position here, double stag if you will. And I'm going to lean backwards. So I'm going to walk my hands back. Maybe you stay here on your hands. Maybe you drop down to your forearms. Maybe you keep going all the way down. But the goal is to keep both knees grounded. And we're feeling a good stretch through here in this hip flexor. It's really intense, but it feels really good. It's really beneficial to us also. And when you're ready, you've had enough, go ahead and bring yourself back up. We're going to keep that back knee bent now and extend through this front leg, going into a little jazz split. So the back leg is bent, the front leg is straight, and we're going to just fold forward over that front leg. And go ahead and bring it on up to a seated position. So from here, I am going to go into my right split. If you are not ready for that yet, because it is still early, we are still getting ourselves ready to move, then please don't. I don't want you to injure yourself. So if you're not going to go into the split, stay in this jazz split and work on getting that left leg a little straighter each time that you're here. So you eventually end up in that full right split here. If you're going into your right split, then let's try and be active and not passive, so we're not just plopping ourselves down into the split. Instead, we're trying to keep those hips square, and it's really hard if you've been trained in a way that your hips are open now because our muscles are sort of constructed a little differently, and we're trying to recreate how they are structured. So for me, I am a classic example of that. My hips are very open here, and I'm trying to pull my left hip forward. I'm trying to pull it forward, actively trying to square off my hips in the split. So it might look like I can't go down as far now, and that's okay because we're really trying to make sure we have good alignment in the split, making our flexibility more functional, if you will. Make sure you're breathing. I know splits are the worst, especially when you have to do more work. And we'll hold it for another 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Go ahead and sink onto that right hip. Carefully bring those legs together in front of yourself. Give them a little shake. And I'm going to scoot back a little bit so I have extra room in front of me to work. From here, I'm just going to take my feet, balls of my feet together. The soles are actively pushing together as we're in this butterfly position, and we're just going to slowly walk our hands forward and maybe drop the head once you're here. And go ahead and walk it up. We're going to do this one more time, but this time I'm going to apply a little bit of pressure to my knees as I fold forward in that same manner, and I drop my head at the bottom. So we're just getting a deeper range of motion in those hips. And gently release. Now I'm going to extend both legs straight, going to a pike position. I'm going to flex my feet for now. And from here, again, we're not just plopping over onto our legs. We're going to actively sit up tall, and I'm going to try and flat back forward as far as I can. Once my back starts to round, that's okay, let it happen. And then you get more stretch here instead of just folding over and hoping that you're getting a stretch. So we're actively lengthening our spine as we fold forward. And go ahead and bring yourself back up to a seated position. From here, I'm going to reach my left hand to my right foot, so opposite hand to opposite foot, and I'm going to grab the arch of my foot here. From there, I'm going to lift that leg off the mat. If you have really tight hamstrings, this might be a really intense stretch for you, so you can bend that leg a little bit, try and extend it as much as you can to get a nice stretch that works for you. But we're trying to get it straight. We're sitting up tall in our back. If this feels fine, open up that right arm and take a rotation in that spine. And bring it back through center. We're going to grab our foot with both hands and bend that knee into your center. From here, try and extend that leg straight and lift that leg a little bit higher if you have it in you. Again, our back is nice and erect, our core is engaged, we're protecting our body by staying actively engaged. Let's bend that knee once more and extend that leg straight. And carefully lower that right foot back down. Now we'll take that right hand to your left arch of your foot and lift that foot off the mat. Again, feel free to bend that knee as needed. Try to keep it straight if you can, and open that left arm up for an additional twist in the spine. And bring it back through center. Grab that foot with both hands. Keep that spine nice and straight, and try to straighten that leg as much as you can. And again, let's bend that knee and straighten. Try to lengthen a little bit more if you've got it in you. And carefully lower that foot back down and shake it out. Now we're going to open those legs out to a straddle. a nice gentle straddle for now. We're just waking our bodies up. So we're making sure that we're not overdoing it in the hips. We want to make sure we're able to still actively rotate back. So our feet are rotating backwards as well, and we're not dropping forward and your feet are just kind of flopping there. We're active in those hips rotating back as we walk those hands down through center. And when you are ready, go ahead and walk those hands back in and give those legs a little shake out. So we'll go through these ending seated, stretching series once more after we stretch our left side of our body, because we have not done that yet. So go ahead and cross those legs. However you need to get back to that downward dog position, go ahead and do so now. I'm going to just fold through and extend my legs here. Once you're there, feel free to tread through those feet. And now we're going to take that left leg up off the mat and hover it there. Again, we're keeping those hips nice and square here. We're not letting it open up, not yet at least. And now feel free to go ahead and open up that left hip, taking that left leg towards the sky. And let's bend at that left knee, dropping that foot towards the ground. And extend that left leg. And we're going to pull that left knee into our center and plant that foot in between your hands, going to a runner's lunge. So again, in this position, we make sure that that left knee is tracking over your left ankle, protecting it and protecting your knee joint. And from here, go ahead and extend that left leg, press those hips back. And re-bend into that left knee, sinking back down to your runner's lunge. From here, I'm going to take my left arm up for a twist. And return that hand back to the mat. Once more, we extend that left leg. And go ahead and bend through that left knee. And if you are feeling ready and able, maybe take those hands off the mat. You can bring those hands to your thigh. Maybe float those hands overhead. We're activating that core, we're activating your quad, trying to get a deeper stretch, working the muscles a bit too. Make sure you're breathing. And return those arms back to the ground. Let's drop that right knee into your mat now. Again, if you need additional support on that knee, please go ahead and find it now. You can fold that mat under to create extra cushion, whatever you need for that knee. From here, making sure that we're using the weight of our hips to push down towards the mat, getting a deeper stretch. And now I'm going to extend my left leg, press those hips back, and fold forward. And re-bend into that left knee, dropping those hips towards the mat once more. You should feel an active stretch in that right hip flexor here. And once more, press those hips back, extend that left leg, and fold forward. And go ahead and rebend into that left knee. From here, I'm going to take my left hand to the inside of my foot. I'm going to take a step out with my left. And if you would like, you can stay on those hands or you can drop down to your forearms, going to your lizard pose. And let's bring it back up onto those hands. From here, if you would like an additional stretch, reach that left arm around behind you. Maybe try and reach for that foot or grab it if it's available to you and try to keep those hips pushing down. We're not sitting back with those hips. They're pressing towards your mat. And gently release that foot down. From here, we're going to tuck our right knee underneath our left. And let's bring it back through center. Now I'm going to stack my feet under my knees, and on top of my knee in this case. And I'm making sure that my legs are parallel. We're also making sure that that left foot is not just sitting inside of your knee. It's trying to move to the outside of your knee, getting an active stretch here. From here, we're going to gently walk ourselves forward as far as our body will allow. Like I said, this is sometimes a really tight area for some people, so you might not get as far as you would like, but we'll work on it and we'll hopefully get you a little looser in those hips. And go ahead and walk yourself back in. We're going to gently release those legs, give a little shake. And I'm going to scoot back on my mat a bit so I have some room to continue stretching. Now my left leg is going to bend and my right leg is going to extend behind me, going to a pigeon pose. Again, we're really working on finding that degree of that leg where you get a good stretch in your hips. So it's not just throwing that leg underneath you and hoping you're getting a stretch. Instead, it's actively moving that foot somewhere where you feel a stretch not only in your right hip, the one that's pushing down, but also in the left. So work on finding that angle for you. Once you've found it, gently sink yourself down, elbows to your mat. And go ahead and bring yourself on up. Now we're going to bend that right knee to match the angle of the left. So again, we're making about a 90-degree angle with the left, 90-degree angle with the right. And we're going to walk ourselves back. So you can either stay on those hands and walk back, or you can drop to those forearms, getting a deeper stretch, especially in that right hip flexor here. It should feel really good. You can relax the head. I know it's intense, but it's so good for us. And when you've had enough, go ahead and bring yourself back up to a seated position. And now we're going to keep that back leg bent and that left leg is going to straighten out in front of us. So from here, again, we're actively making sure we're squaring off the hips as much as you can, and you're going to fold forward over that left leg. And go ahead and bring it back up. Now, like I said on the first side, we're going to try and go into our split on this side. If you are not ready for your splits yet, that's totally okay. What you're going to do is stay in this jazz split and try to wiggle that right leg a little straighter behind you, just going to that split position as close as you can get it. If you're going into your left split, go ahead and extend that right leg now. And again, we're not just plopping into our split and sitting here. What we're trying to do now is we're trying to square off our hips. So I gave the example last time of myself. I am definitely open in my hips in my split, and you really want to try and have squared hips so you have more functional flexibility, but just with my training, this is how I've ended up. So I'm really trying to correct it, and I'm trying to actively pull my hips together, trying to square them off without injuring myself. But this should really be more of an active stretch rather than just sitting in your split. Make sure you're breathing. I know that splits are really hard. They can be really uncomfortable. And hold this for another 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Sink onto that left hip flexor. Go ahead and hug those knees together in front and give them a little shake out. I'm going to scoot back a little bit. From there, once you've recovered from your split, go ahead and bring the bottoms of your feet together into a butterfly. And again, we're going to sit up nice and tall and fold forward as far as you can over those feet. And bring yourself back up to a seated position. We'll do this once more, this time applying a tiny bit of pressure to your knees as we fold forward, gently pushing down as you sink over those feet. And bring it on up. Go ahead and extend those legs out straight in front of you now into a pike position. This time we flex them. The first time we're going to point through our feet, and we sit up nice and tall, and we're going to lengthen through our spine, trying to flat back forward until you have no choice but to round over your legs. And go ahead and bring yourself back up to a seated position. We're going to open those legs out to a straddle now. You might have a little more range of motion here now that we've warmed up a little bit more, now that we've done a little more stretching. Again, still just protecting ourselves and working on rotating back in those hips and not letting those feet drop forward. Once you're there, go ahead and walk those hands down through center, and maybe lower yourself a little more than you did last time. We're always working on progress and trying to see our progress as we go along. That's always the most exciting part. And go ahead and walk yourself back in. Go ahead and shake out those legs. And I'm going to flip around so you can kind of see what I'm doing a little bit better. Now, since we're towards the end of our class, I'm going to plant my feet, and I'm going to lay back on my mat. So I'm in this little, sort of like getting ready for a bridge position. We are going to be doing a little bit of bridging. So my feet are flat on the ground. My heels should be right underneath my hip bones. I'm going to push down with my hands into my mat. From here, we're just going to lift those hips up towards the ceiling, trying to press as far as you can, sort of getting a little stretch in the back also, and lower back down. We're going to do this 8 times all together. Here we go. We lift up 4, 8, and lower. Here's 7, and lower. Here's 6, and lower. Here's 5, and lower. Here's 4, and lower. Here's 3, and lower. Last 2, and lower. Last 1, and lower. Now you always have the option to return to this. If you don't have a very bendy back, that's totally okay. You can always come back here, maybe interlock those hands at the top and press out, trying to get a deeper stretch here. That's always an option. If you would like to try and take it up a notch, what I'm going to do, I'm going to scoot down, is I'm going to lift my legs up and over. So my legs straighten. I'm just going to let my legs go up and over my head, and I'm pushing down with my hands as my legs reach up and over. Try and take those legs as far as you can over your head. Feel a nice stretch here. Again, if this is not an option to you, you just go back to this bridge and get a stretch here. But if you are here, remind yourself that we're pushing down with our arms and those legs are actively reaching, getting a nice stretch in the back. And carefully roll down through the spine if your legs were up and over. If you are in your bridge, go ahead and lower those hips down and just allow yourself to reset here. We're going to do that one more time, so either going to that bridge or with those legs going up and over. And get ready to go. Wherever you are, push down with your hands, and we're going to take those legs up. And gently lower yourself all the way back down wherever you are. And now feel free to extend those legs straight on your mat. From here, we're just going to allow that body to sort of reset. Go ahead and close your eyes if you would like. Just sort of noticing any changes that you felt in your body during class today, any tightness that you had going into it. Maybe, hopefully, you're feeling a little bit looser in those areas now. It's always nice to do a little bit of stretching in the morning, maybe not this rigorous all the time, but you can just do slight stretching when you wake up. And it is so beneficial for the rest of your day. I feel like it helps me really just kickstart my day, and it sort of helps me gain momentum. If this is a lot of pressure on your lower back in this position, feel free to bend your knees and let those knees sort of sink towards one another. And this will relieve some pressure, pressing your spine back into the mat. And if you would like, you can also take those arms across your chest, going to a constructive rest position. Again, we're just trying to allow our bodies to reset. Even though we didn't do a ton of necessarily working out, we did do a lot of stretching, and stretching takes a lot of energy, which I don't think we always realize. So just making sure you're taking care of yourself. After this class, let's take a few deep breaths together. I really want us to fill our bellies with air, so push out towards the ceiling as we inhale and exhale. Again, inhale and exhale. Twice more, inhale and exhale. Last one, inhale and exhale. And feel free to remain in this constructive rest position as long as you would like. I am going to sign off now, so I'm going to get up and get moving. But again, feel free to stay here as long as you and your body need. Thank you for joining me for the stretch class. I will be doing more of these, and like I said at the beginning of class, I'm also going to be doing a 10 a.m. strengthening class tomorrow, so it's like a conditioning class for your body, and that'll be about an hour also. So if you want to tune into that, that's 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. And thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow, and make sure you caffeinate up if you have not already. Thank you so much.